Yo, what's up guys? It's the new sensation, Bigger Notation here, and today I've got for you another installment of my choices for finals coming up, and we're going to be going through the deck and kind of breaking down why I think it's a particularly good choice for this format. And yeah, so the deck today is going to be Turtle School, and I recently played this in the recent Zenkai Cup. And managed to do pretty well with it. I have to give a massive shout out to my teammate Andre for piloting this deck since it came out and basically proving to everyone that he's met since that this deck is not to be scoffed at. Like, this deck is the real deal. It's honestly really, really strong. It does particularly well into red right now, I feel like, but it also has just good matchups across the board in general. It feels like every matchup is, like, there's not an unwinnable matchup for this deck, it's just every matchup is kind of down to you as a player versus them as a player, which is obviously really rewarding, especially in a format like this where it's just red everywhere. So that's great to see. And in terms of my performance with this deck in Zenkai Cup, I think I came around 20th, maybe like 23rd, 24th, I'm not entirely sure. Went 4 wins, 2 losses, so in theory could have had a chance to make top 16 if my tiebreakers were better, but I'm not too turned over that, because I wasn't too bothered about any of the prizing, just looking to play and have a bit of fun with this deck, and it was kind of my first time trying out the deck properly. And so in round 1 especially, I definitely made some misplays which I shouldn't have, which probably cost me that round. But in total, I think I played against 3 red Sins, a red SS4 Gogeta, a blue Trunk reboot starter, and a Margin Vegeta. And my losses were to one of the red Sin players, which was my only game where I actually won the dice roll, ironically enough, and I also lost to the Margin Vegeta round 1, which I think was mostly down to my misplays, but you know, also Margin Vegeta, I guess, takes people by surprise, or at least it takes me by surprise still. But yeah, it was definitely really fun, and the fact that I managed to beat 2 red Sins and an SS4 Gogeta going second all of the games felt absolutely amazing. Like, the deck feels very rewarding to pilot well, and it's just a really fun deck overall. It's just quite efficient in what it does. So why do I think that it's good for this particular format? Well, like I said, it does quite well into Sin and SS4 as well. And I haven't tested it at all against Vegito, but I can imagine that the matchup is still, like, playable. Like, it's not an unwinnable matchup. And so why does it do well into those decks? Well, for a couple of reasons. The first reason is it has good barrier removal, as you can see here with the Goku Fated Rival. Barrier removal is massive this format. We need barrier removal for blue with their 5-drop Vegito, their new 6-drop Goku. I think it's called Another World Blitz, but we also need barrier removal for Sin. Against red Sin, you pop their 8-drop as soon as they give a barrier. It doesn't matter, and even if they don't give a barrier, they still can pop it, of course. And then also, this deck has incredible defense. I've just included I think green in general has some really good defense right now, especially for against Sin. It has some really good tech choices, and something I especially like about this deck is the fact that every turn with the Master Roshi's training, you can cycle a card from your hand as well as your normal draw from your leader, so you have a good chance to be able to find those tech choices for each specific matchup. And it also means that you can find, on turns where you want to be defensive, you can find your defensive cards, and then on turns where you want to be aggressive, you have more of a chance to find your aggressive cards. So I feel like this deck is really well poised for that, just because of the amount of cycle that it has to find the good tech choices that you can include for each of those matchups. And it also has amazing ways to fill up your Z energy as well with the Master Roshi's training, because you can combo off the 1-drop you get every time as well. But we'll hop right into the deck. I'll try not to explain the cards too much, even though a lot of them are quite new cards. They have been around for a little bit of time now, so hopefully people know what they do. And if not, then you can just go and read them. I think this deck profile is, and this series in general, is meant to be more explaining why the deck is good in this format, in my opinion, rather than what the cards actually do. So obviously we've got the leader, and something else that's really nice about the leader as well that I hadn't mentioned. I mean, first of all, it has great self-awakening on the front side, but most of the time I'm not taking the life with the front side swing. Even if I'm on 8 life, I'll just let people hit me down to 4 and then awaken. Or if I'm against a deck, a blue deck or a slower deck in general, then I can always use the alternative awaken and get 3 guys out and then just awaken if I've got 3 costs or more turtle skulls in play. It doesn't come up too often, mostly just against blue, like I said, but you know, it's always nice to be on higher life when you're awakened, just so that you don't have as much fear when it comes to taking any attacks on the defense. But the main thing I like about the leader is just the fact that it has an inherent double strike, and you'll notice that even though this deck's quite aggressive, we're not running Champer in the build, just because your leader can give double strike. Most of your finishing kills or attacks are going to be double strike, so you don't really need Champer, I feel like. And then we obviously have the Master Roshi's training to go with it. And then the main playmakers of the deck, so we have Goku Fated Rival and Piccolo Fated Rival, just 4 and 4. This is pretty much what you're doing turn 3 onwards every single turn if you can. The Goku obviously being the main barrier removal that I was talking about before, but the Piccolo also being amazing unison removal because of all the free Z energy that you can get off your leader in training. And then also swinging 25k dual attack, discard 2 cards is just nuts for 1 energy. Like, this engine is insane. And then there's the fact that it has like some inherent synergies with the deck just because the Goku is a turtle school. Yeah, it's just a bit nuts. So that's like the main playmakers of the deck, really. We do actually run the turtle school engine as well, but like it doesn't come up nearly as much as these guys do. The turtle school stuff feels like it's mostly just for the early game, like turn 1, turn 2, if you need some removal, or if your opponent just doesn't have much of a board, you could go into the 3-drop Goku, which I'll show in a minute. But yeah, mostly these guys are the play, and if you don't see these guys, then you go into the turtle school stuff from turn 3 onwards. But in terms of the 1-drops, we're running 4 Krillin. This guy's the best 1-drop because he draws a card guaranteed on play, whereas the other guys search for turtle schools, and there are lots of times where you don't want to be grabbing turtle schools off of the training, so you just play this guy, draw a card, and then that's how you dig for your tech choices. You can just effectively mulligan a card from your hand each turn, which is honestly like super underrated. It's a really, really strong ability to be able to have at your disposal. And then the 5-drop Krillin is also great, which we'll cover later. We run 3 of the Goku because the 3-drop Goku is better than the 3-drop Yamcha, and then we run 2 of the 1-drop Yamcha, just so that we still have the option to go into the 3-drop, really. So the 1-drop Goku searches top 3 for any turtle school, and then the 1-drop Yamcha searches top 5 for a turtle school that costs 5 or less. So this Goku can actually grab the 6-drop Goku, which is really nice because it's a turtle school, but the Piccolo isn't, sadly. The main thing with the 1-drop Goku is if you see a turtle school when you're like checking the top wall first card or anything, most of the time you just grab it. Because a lot of the time you'll end up bottom decking super combos or secret rares with that 1-drop, and it's really, really frustrating. So most of the time if you see a turtle school before you've even checked all 3 cards, just grab it, it's just easier. But yeah, main target for that card is you're mostly playing that guy down if you're specifically searching for the 6-drop Fated Rivals. Otherwise you want to go for Yamcha if you're searching for a specific other turtle school, and Krillin if you're just searching for a non-turtle school, of course. In terms of the big boys, we play 3 of the 5-drop Krillin, 3 of the 5-drop Goku, and 2 of the 3-drop Yamcha. Krillin is really good, especially against blue, but the main annoying thing about him that I find is that he's only coming down if you have 3 or more energy, and he also doesn't draw you a card when he comes down, whereas the 3-drops do draw you a card, which is quite frustrating. I don't know why Krillin doesn't draw a card, but it's still a very strong card, especially against blue because it's crit dual attack and blue struggles with hand control, and then if they counter attack it, then they also have to discard a card, so that's quite nice. But I feel like Yamcha and Goku are coming down a lot more turn 2 most of the time, just as a nice 1-drop draw a card, 20k swing. If you can get the Goku attack through, then they start discarding cards, which is amazing, of course. And then Yamcha, if they have like a 4-drop Sin that's still around, this guy is going to be out to that, because you can give them 2 guys off the Master Roshi's training, and then swing one of your, swing a load of your battle cards into one of the 1-drops. Then when one of them is KO'd, you can obviously play the Yamcha over your 1-drop Yamcha, and then swing into the other 1-drop that you've given them. 20k into 4k, they're not going to combo out, and then you can use the auto to restand and KO their 4-drop. So that's really nice, especially if you've gone second. That's a lot of the time going to be your turn 2 play, just to make sure that you can clear their board going into their turn 3 for when they drop the big guy. In terms of unisons, I'm on 4 Demigra. This is the kind of main early game play of the deck, sorry. If you open this card turn 1, then you drop it basically. And this is a lot of the time, if you're going first, this is your out to Sin, because you can turn 1 play this for 1 energy, and then plus it. And then they'll play out their turn 1. If they attack into this guy at all, you just take the life. Then come your turn 2, you plus it again, so it's on 3 markers. And then come their turn 2, if they do their standard play of like any sort of 2 drops and then playing the 4-drop Awakening and stuff, even if they sequence it correctly, they can only ever take Demigra down to 2 markers off of their leader activate main, and then you can still freeze a charismatic the 4-drop Sin when it comes into play, so you don't have to worry about the double strike crit stuff. And so yeah, as long as you can get this guy down turn 1 if you're going first, it's really nice. And then turn 2, or going second, sorry, you can even play it for 1, and then if you have another copy in hand, slide it under, so that then you're still in the same position. And that is what I did against one of the Red Sin players in the Zenkai Cup, because I went second against most of them. And then in terms of the other unison, I'm on 2 of the Vegeta AOD unison. This guy's just amazing. Double strike crit pressure later on is massive, and a board clear is also great, and the fact that it goes through barrier means that again, like, you don't have to worry so much about any side deck barrier removal, because you already have Fated Rivals and this guy. So once it gets to the later stages of the game against Red Sin, once they're like using up their last couple of 8 drops, you can just use this to clear off 1 or 2 of them if one of them is stuck around for some reason. It's just massive. And then this card is like how you win the game against yellow, because any sort of barrier guys that they might have flooded, especially against Great Ape Coup, then you can just drop this guy, because Great Ape Coup obviously floods the board with a load of barrier stuff, so your Fated Rivals might not be able to keep up with that. But you get to this guy, you just win the game. And then we also run, obviously, the Unison package, so 4 Freezer Charismatic. Currently, I'm only on 2 Dormant. I think this is just correct for right now. Most decks are going Tool rather than Wide at the moment, and this card feels like it's only really useful against Red Sin right now, because of the fact that you can actually get value out of the removal on it as well, because you can pop their Nuovas or their Hazes or Oceanuses that might be on the board. So that's actually quite nice. Especially if, so you kind of hold them in a fork with this card and another card which we're running, which I'll get into in a sec. Basically making them decide whether they want to swing with their 2 drops first or whether they don't. And if you have this card or the other card, then you can kind of punish them either way. So in terms of super combos, I'm on 3 Paragus and then 1 of the new Vegeta super combo. This just kind of provides more defense for the deck. Sometimes they go all in with all of their attacks. They might have like 1 or 2 attacks left, and you can just super combo out of 1 of the attacks, play a token, and then block the other attack. It's really nice. And then even going aggressive, you can just combo off the token because it's a 5k combo. So the Vegeta super combos actually felt really, really strong for me. And it kind of means that I don't need to run token negates, because token negates are already quite bad this format with how much red there is in the format, and obviously red has very easy access to the removal for the tokens with their minus effects. In terms of secret rare, I was running Kibito Kai. You want to be running Pan over this like every single time. I think that if I did have Pan, I would have won one of my games that I lost. But yeah, you definitely just want Pan over this. I just don't own Pan, that's the only reason I'm not running it right now. In terms of Overrealm, Feigned Greetings, just the best Overrealm you can run, really. Especially for green, because we have like a good amount of hand control in the deck with the Piccolo Fated Rivals, the 3-drop Goku, and then the Cells Earth Destroying Kamehameha, which we're getting into now. So in terms of the last tech choices I've got, in terms of like defensive stuff, we've got 3 Shocking Death Ball and 3 Cells Earth Destroying Kamehameha. So these are kind of tech choices again for Red Sin. Early on, if you go second especially, then Cells is kind of your best card to find in the matchup, because if you're going second, you can just pass with one energy open, and then when they go in for the double strike crit guy, you slam this guy down, your leader goes up to 25k, so unless they've comboed further or super comboed, you're going to be comboing out of the swing, and if they have comboed further, you can then just kind of match that combo power, and you lost the same sort of number of cards in hand. Whereas you're also ripping a card out of their hand with this, which is amazing. So this is like really, really strong against Sin. And then Shocking Death Ball is also really, really strong against Sin, because, again, like I mentioned before with the Dormant, it can kind of hold them in a fork whether they want to swing first with the 2-drop or not, because if they swing first with the 2-drop, you can then drop Dormant, kill the 2-drop, discard a card, and then they get one more swing for the turn. But if they swing first with, say, a 4-drop or an 8-drop, or even their leader swing, you can then Shocking Death Ball, negate that swing, KO the 2-drop that they might have swung with later on, and then you just got kind of the same sort of value as you would have if they'd swung first with the 2-drop. So this has become my replacement for Homicidal in this deck, because I don't think Homicidal is very good this format because of the amount of removal there is for the tokens, and this card just kind of does a whole lot of work against Red Sin. And also the fact that it's a 1-drop negate is super relevant as well, because a lot of the time you do start to leave energy open, especially in the earlier turns, because of defensive cards like this, but also Cells Kamehameha. And if it gets to the point where you think you're not going to be using the Cells in the turn, but you might need to just negate a triple strike or something, you can just do that with this card, and then you don't have to take a life for it, which is amazing. So that's the whole deck. We've got 50 cards including the field, so an effective 49 card deck for maximum consistency, which is great. And then because of the field, you're also deck thinning a ridiculous amount every single turn. In terms of the Z deck, we are on, well, I was on 2 Frieza, 1 Vegeta, and then 4 of the Turtle School guy. The reason behind this is because I don't own 4 copies of this Frieza yet. I only own the 2 copies. You definitely want to be on 4 of this, and you only need 2 copies of this guy. You only ever play this guy like once or twice in a game, but you rarely ever play him, if that. So yeah, you definitely just want 4 Frieza. To be honest, the Frieza doesn't even come up all that often, but it comes up way more than the Turtle School guy does. So yeah, definitely run 4 Frieza there. And then the 1 Vegeta is obviously just to help you self-awaken. And then for the side deck, so in terms of Zenkai Cup stuff, obviously it was best of 1, so there was no side deck. It wasn't pre-side or anything, but for each of these videos, for like suggestions that I think would be good for this current format for finals, I'll obviously be including a sideboard, or just like some examples of cards that you want to be siding, because, you know, if you decide to take these decks to finals, then of course I want to be trying to help you guys with as much as I can in that. So starting things off, first of all, I completely forgot to include them here because I couldn't find them. But you definitely want to be siding the 4th Shocking Death Ball and also a Mirror Creator Absorbed, in my opinion. The 4th Shocking Death Ball being for the Sin matchup specifically, and the Mirror Creator Absorbed being for Gogeta, of course, to get through that 100k leader. Although there have been times with this deck, and even in the Zenkai Cup when I played against the SS4 Gogeta, where I did just combo it all the way up to 100k on the kill swing, and it worked out, because they'd already Z-awakened earlier in the turn. So yeah, definitely a Mirror and the 4th Shocking Death Ball I think are really good sideboard options here. And then in terms of other suggestions, I'd say we've obviously got the D-Magic Hate guys. You might not need these, to be honest, because you have a fairly good matchup into blue, but it just kind of adds that extra security. And then also 2 Zamasus for blue as well. But honestly, if you were to cut 2 cards like for the Mirror and the 4th Shocking Death Ball, it could easily be the 2 Zamasu or 2 of the Vegetas. I'm also siding 3 of the Bardock Unison. This is kind of for decks that that like to abuse combo, so sort of like Android 16, Blue Bojack, that sort of thing. Any sort of a rival-based decks as well that you might play against. Because those aren't like necessarily what you'll expect to see. You'll expect to see a lot of Red Sin and Gogeta, so those are what you want to be siding for. You could, in theory, just take them out and replace them with, like I said, the Shocking Death Ball or the Mirror, especially if you're finding the blue matchup hard and you want to keep these in. So these are probably the weaker cards of the sideboard, just because you don't expect to go against any sort of combo-based decks, because Red Sin and Gogeta is all we're going to see, really. Then on 2 Blue Impulse, This is just for, well, any sort of deck that might play a card during your turn. This hits a lot of decks. It's just quite a generically good card. Focus Breakthrough, I feel like you need a second copy of this in the sideboard. I just couldn't find mine as well. So maybe in theory you could just cut these 3 and then go second Focus Breakthrough, Mirror, and the 4th Shocking Death Ball. I think that would be absolutely fine. But yeah, like I said, these are kind of just suggestions in theory. Defender of Justice, this is for red, yellow, Sin. For if they have the Almighty Resistance, you want to be having 1 or maybe even 2 of these, just to deal with that. And then the last card is 3 Bigger More. I think that this is how you, in theory, win the game against Vegito, because they basically don't get to swing on the turn where you Bigger More, other than with Leader and maybe a Son Goku the Rescuer. Or they could go into their Z battle cards with, if they're running like any sort of Rush Attack Vegeta or Cell in the Z, but they'll be taking up 5 slots of their Z deck with the 4 Vegito Z battle cards and the Z Leader, so it's quite unlikely that they'll be that they'll have too many of the other options to go for. So I feel like Bigger More is just how you win the game against Vegito. That paired with all the barrier removal the deck has should be able to help you out in games 2 and 3. But that's kind of my recommendation for green this format in terms of going into finals. I think that Turtle School is a really, really good option. It's definitely being underrated massively. And I highly recommend giving this a try, of course. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching, as always. You guys can come and I should hopefully be able to stream some gameplay of this, although I have already got past gameplay of this up, I think, from when I was trying out the deck for the first time, so you guys are welcome to watch that, of course. But I should hopefully be able to get some more up of this deck as well, with the new changes that I've made, and hopefully be able to demonstrate how it runs, because I think it's a really, really underrated deck. It's very strong. So yeah, you guys can check out that on stream, hopefully, should be soon, if you guys are interested for this gameplay. But if not, I'll be uploading the gameplay on the YouTube channel as well anyways. And you can also come vote for which deck you want me to play next on stream as well. So if you guys really want me to play this deck, then you can come vote for that as well. But other than that, thank you guys very much for watching. Leave any suggestions for any sort of sideboard pieces that I might have missed out or anything like that in the comments. And of course, I'll take a look over them and obviously want to be promoting them to any other people that might be looking at them, because we want to just all be learning to be better players and see how well we can do at finals, of course. But other than that, that's going to be it from me today. Thank you guys, as always, for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.